Gratitude. What a powerful word. And we've heard more and more in recent years that there is power in being grateful. That gratitude is an important part of our lives and that we should exercise gratitude. Well, we're going to explore in this episode the science of gratitude. What is actually produced while we are experiencing and expressing gratitude, and why in the scientific quantum realm it's so important to actually facilitate those experiences that you want in your life that will enhance your life, those things that you are dreaming about, hoping for, wishing for, how they can actually become a reality in your life. Welcome to Life by Randy and LBR's book review, as we are reviewing the very powerful book and the concepts therein of Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. In the last episode, episode 5, we talked about heart resonance and how important that is to actually affect matter. What we think about, our thoughts and feelings combined with an elevated emotion like joy, happiness, any high vibratory emotion on the Hertz scale. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll have the link below. See below for the Hertz scale, the emotional scale of our emotions, and why it's important to go high on the emotional vibratory scale, because we are energy and frequency, and we are interacting with an energetic universe, an energetic quantum field that speaks in the language of energy and frequency. And so gratitude is foundational to further understanding these principles in quantum science. And why is that? Well, let's explore gratitude. When you think about something, and I encourage you to conjure up something now that you're grateful for. Generally, it's something that's already happened. We so often live in the past, right? We live in the past. We think about our past circumstances far more, I dare say, than future events, and certainly more than we're living in the very now moment, the present moment. We think about the past more than we're even aware of. And it's important to become conscious of that so that we don't live our lives unconsciously, looping in the same old patterns. That's generally what happens. So when we think about gratitude, we think about all what we're grateful for in the past, or the roof over my head, or that great job I had, or this wonderful friendship, or the great meal I had last night, whatever. It's in the past. How often do we think about events that we're grateful for in the future, anticipated future events? You've heard me say this before, our imagination is our superpower. And little kids know it. It's the secret, it's the key, right? It's the gateway to what we wish to create. The very gateway to heaven, actually, is to have the faith of a little child. And you think about a little child in the imagination, in the imaginary world that they can live in. Well, generally they're imagining good things. And how often do we tend to disastrosize things and re-traumatize ourselves? Very dangerous, actually, because what we think about, what we project, what we put out in the quantum field has no other choice but to come back and reflect it back to us. That's how it works. And if you don't like the state of your life, or if you even just want to take a neutral assessment of the state of your life, take a look around at everything that you've created. Everything you're experiencing right now, in other words. What are your experiences? What are your friends like? What are relationships with your family like? What's the quality of your thoughts? You'll see what you're thinking about, because you see, we get what we think about. We reap what we sow. It's a boomerang effect that comes back to us. And in this book, Dr. Joe does such a brilliant job of explaining those principles in ways that I can't fully explain, and that's why I take some quotes from Dr. Joe's book. A lot of quotes from Dr. Joe's book. So let's dive into what Dr. Joe says about the quantum you and quantum creating, and what he says about gratitude. Generally, and this is on page 26, we are grateful for something that already happened or is already present in our lives. You and I have been conditioned into believing that we need a reason for joy, a motivation to feel gratitude, grounds to be in a state of love. That's relying on external reality to make us feel differently internally. It's that old Newtonian model of cause and effect. What does going Newtonian mean when applied to your ability to create? It's when the external environment is controlling your internal environment. That's cause and effect. I used to live this way for more years than I care to admit. Gosh, I gave away so much of my power to external environment, to the external conditions. We do that, don't we? That's largely how we live. But until we can turn that around and live in a different way and experience joy by what we are creating in the future, we're going to continue to be controlled by our external circumstances. You see, we've been conditioned to do that here. And very few have told us the secret, or shared with you the keys on how to do this. And so my website, my story, I call it A Journey into Joy. And if you're not familiar with my story, you can read more at lifebyrandy.com. But very briefly, if this is one of the first videos you're hearing from me, or the first video, I can tell you that I was diagnosed with stage 4 metastatic breast cancer at the end of 2020. I knew these principles and I deployed the principles, and I believed that I would be fully healed, and I wanted a dramatic story. I wanted to be healed in short order. And sure enough, within 5 months, the cancer was gone without any draconian Western medicine means of chemo and radiation and surgery. I deployed these principles. You see, I found the frequency of joy, and I lived as if it had already happened, and that's the key. And lest you think that I have always skipped around in joy and never been dragged around by my circumstances, that could not be further from the truth. And I do have pain. I do have all those experiences and disappointments that we all face on a sliding scale, from the smaller things in life to the really large things in life. No one here is immune. But whatever you're going through, it's possible to use your imagination, to use your superpower, and to co-create with divinity, and to create a better life for you and for the collective, as we all are ascending and doing this together. More and more are being drawn to this way of being. And it's a way of being, not of doing. Let's dig in a little bit more. What we're going to learn how to do is we're going to change our internal environment, the way you think and feel, and then see how the external environment is altered by your efforts. That's the key. Everything's an inside job. It starts in here. It does. Strive to create an unknown new future experience. Then, when an unforeseen event occurs in your favor, you'll be pleasantly surprised. In so doing, you have just become a quantum creator. You just went from cause and effect to causing an effect. You just went from cause and effect to actually causing an effect. This is on page 25. Hold a clear intention of what you want but leave the how details to the unpredictable quantum field. Let it orchestrate an event in your life in a way that is just right for you. If you're going to expect anything, expect the unexpected. Surrender, trust, and let go of how a desired event will unfold. Let the universe, let God take care of that. Let the quantum field take care of that. That's what I did. I didn't know how I was going to become cancer-free. I didn't know the details, but I knew that I was. Now, I must tell you that a number of days after I was diagnosed, I didn't know that I had the strength to do it. But that too changed and turned around by me accessing my subconscious and pulling those old limited beliefs and programs out about how I couldn't do this. You know, stage 5 is dead. It wasn't easy. But once I made the decision and I determined that this was going to be an adventure, a fascinating journey, as I called it, and I was going to rendezvous with the divine, to be honest, I more and more unplugged from even the desired outcome and started to live in the present in joy and let that be my guide. It is possible. I'm not superhuman, and I did it. Although we do have superpowers. Here's the key. Giving thanks before receiving an outcome. That's the leap of faith that's absolutely necessary. The new model of reality challenges us as quantum creators to change something within us, in mind and body, in our thoughts and feelings, before we can experience the physical evidence with our senses. Let me say that again. The new model of reality challenges us as quantum creators to change something within us, in mind and body, in our thoughts and feelings, before we can experience the physical evidence with our senses. Here's the science. When you are in a state of gratitude, you transmit a signal into the field that an event has already occurred. Gratitude is more an intellectual thought process. You have to feel as though whatever you want is in your reality at this very moment. Thus, your body, which only understands feelings, must be convinced that it has the emotional quotient of the future experience happening to you now. Give you an example of that. So it's February 14th, and someone comes to you and says, on April 15th, here's a check for $10 million. You can deposit it in your checking account, unrestricted, after-tax money, all yours. And here you sit, February 14th, you can't make your next car payment, you don't know if you're going to be able to make your next mortgage or rent payment, and you have little food in the refrigerator, and you just lost your job. So you feel awful. You might feel desperate, dejected, rejected, like a loser. You feel horrible about yourself. Someone gives you this check, so you're looking at the check. Now you know on April 15th, your life is changing as of that date because you've got $10 million. That's for you. Now, how are you going to live from February 14th to April 15th? Because you know your circumstances are changing soon. You know that you are not the dejected, desperate, rejected loser. You've got this. You know it. Because that's the future event that hasn't happened yet. But you would live differently. That's the key, you see. So any projected future event that you want to see happen in your life is a $10 million check that's going to be deposited. Truly. And the key in getting that $10 million check successfully deposited in your bank account is to live in that time frame from the intention to the manifestation in the elevated state of joy, in the elevated emotion of joy, as if it has already happened. That is the key. That is how powerful gratitude is. That's how you do this. In gratitude and in joy. Thanks for watching. Time. What is time? What is the concept of time? We can all agree that time passes so fast. Sometimes time passes so slowly. Is it linear? Or do we exist in vertical realities and different planes all at once? As I've read and tried to learn and understand, I can't say I understand it, let alone explain it. But it is worth exploring the concept of time. Welcome back to Life by Randy and LBR's book review as we continue our study into this amazing book. We are still on the beginning chapter of the Quantum You, because these concepts are so fundamental to understanding where we're going to be going as we dance through the book and ultimately end on meditation to rewire your brain. That's where it's leading. But for now, let's try to understand the concept of time and that quantum field that we've been discussing. Hang with me here for a minute. Page 26. Dr. Joe at the bottom says universal intelligence and the quantum field. I hope by now you agree on some basic underlying concepts of the quantum model, that all physical reality is primarily energy existing in a vast web that is interconnected across space and time. That web, the quantum field, holds all probabilities, which we can collapse into reality through our thoughts, our consciousness, observation, feelings, and state of being. But is reality nothing but indifferent electromagnetic forces acting on and in response to one another? Is the animating spirit within us simply a function of biology and randomness? I've had conversations, this is Dr. Joe, with people who hold this view, the randomness and function of biology. Ultimately, this discussion leads to a dialogue that goes something like this. Where does the intelligence that keeps our heart beating come from? Oh, that's a part of the autonomic nervous system. Where is that system located? The brain. The brain's limbic system is part of the autonomic nervous system. And within the brain, are there specific tissues that are responsible for keeping the heart beating? Yes. What are those tissues made up of? Cells. And what are those cells made up of? Molecules. And what are those molecules made up of? Atoms. And what are those atoms made up of? Subatomic particles. What are those subatomic particles composed of? Energy. Energy. When we arrive at the conclusion that our physiological vehicle, our body, is made up of the same stuff as the rest of the universe, then we see that the body is a form of energy. The same 99.9999%, quote, nothing, that constitutes the physical universe. There is something to that notion, then, that a unifying principle pervades all of physical reality. But isn't it ironic, then, that we keep all of our attention on the 0.0001% of reality that is physical? Are we missing something? Yes, we're missing something. We're missing a lot. As Dr. Joe states, he calls it the big three, that In order for us to access the quantum field, the infinite probabilities that exist out there that haven't been yet collapsed into a probability, it's the amount of their infinite probabilities that haven't yet been collapsed into our reality, circumstances in our lives. In order to do that, we must leave the big three: the environment, our body, and time. And we do this more than we think we do. How many times have you been driving or even at a red light and you're thinking about something? You're not thinking about driving, you're not thinking about the gas pedal, you're not thinking about your hands on the steering wheel, you're not thinking about the environment around you, and you're not thinking about the time. And you're kind of in a trance, and then you come to. You've just left your environment, your body, and time. You see, our brains have the innate ability for this skill. And that's the skill that we ought to be tapping into more and more, that this book teaches on the techniques of that skill. And it is through meditation. And it doesn't have to be kind of the meditation of sitting cross-legged on the floor that one conjures up. You could meditate at your desk. You could meditate in the kitchen. It's a state of leaving your environment, your body, and time, and going out into the quantum field, going outside of time and space, and creating, imagining, and being, and just being. So what is this quantum field? What is it like? Well, the quantum is a multidimensional reality that exists beyond your senses in a realm where there is no body, no thing, and no time. Thus, to move into that domain and create from that paradigm, you'll need to forget about your body for a while. You'll have to temporarily shift your awareness away from your external environment, all those things that you identify within your life, your spouse, your kids, your possessions, your problems. They're all a part of your identity. And through them, you identify with the outer world. And finally, you will have to lose track of the linear time. That is the moment you are intentionally observing a potential future experience. You will have to be so present that your mind no longer vacillates between memories of the past and expectations of the same as usual future. Now, to me, I love doing that because there's such freedom there. We all have concerns and issues and wounds from the past and traumas. It's been pretty brutal. And these last 3 years have really worked to challenge us on a variety of ways, and who to trust and what what the heck's really going on. And so I love going out there in the quantum field and meditating and leaving myself, my thoughts, my past, my now, my issues, everything behind. It's a really fun thing to do. So in effect, we become pure consciousness. And again, our brain has the ability to harness this skill. We do this naturally. Since the quantum field is nothing but immaterial probability, it is outside of space and time. As soon as we observe one of those infinite probabilities and give it material reality, it acquires 2 characteristics. And the 2 characteristics waves of probability collapsed into particle reality right by our laser focus on it exist beyond time and space. So great. Page 33, we have the power to make material a reality of our own choosing by selecting it from the quantum field. But how do we somehow access that field? We're always connected to it, but how do we get the field to respond to us? That's the question, right? If we're constantly emitting energy, which we are, and therefore sending information to the field and receiving information from it, how do we communicate more effectively with it? That's what we want to learn. And that begins with observing the quality of our thoughts. That's why I talk so much about detoxing our brains, detoxing our minds, taking inventory of what we're thinking about. You've heard me say before, take a look at everything that's manifested in your life. Your job, your place of residence, any of your relationships, your spouse, your boyfriend, your partner, everything in your life. You take inventory of that, you look at that, and then you can judge for yourself, analyze for yourself the quality of your thoughts and what you're placing your focus on. Because what you place your focus and attention on, the quantum field matches and brings that continually into your existence. When I was younger, we'd go to fairs or amusement parks, and do you recall the little rubber duckies that would have a number on the bottom? They would be lined up in a little stream, and you would pick up a little rubber ducky, and okay, lucky number 13, and it would match a prize that you would get. Easy enough concept. That is my simple way of understanding the infinite probabilities out there in the quantum field for me to access. So in my mind's eye, I see all the bobbing little rubber duckies. But yet, I get to choose which one I want. What is my ideal outcome? What am I feeling in resonance with myself, my higher self, my creator? What is in resonance that is for my best and highest good and that of all concerned? What is that outcome? And that's what I'm intending for. What feels the best to me? We have that ability. That's how this reality functions. And that's the secret. That's the key. Stay tuned. We're going to continue to dive in deeper to this concept and continue to learn now how to do it in the episodes to come. Thanks for tuning in and spending your time, your precious time with me. Change your mind, change your life. Change your mind, change your life. Do you believe that? Do you believe that that's possible? Well, it is. Welcome to Life by Randy and LBR's book review series as we continue to review Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, How to Lose Your Mind and Create a New One. We are still in the Quantum You chapter. And as this chapter has progressed in the last 7 episodes, Dr. Joe has led us through the notion that mind and matter are not separable. They are actually inseparable, mind and matter. Mind is matter, and matter is mind. So all the times in the past when you tried to change, maybe your thinking was fundamentally limited. You likely believed it was circumstances outside of you that needed to change. Well, if I didn't have so many other commitments, I could do this. If I didn't work in an Italian restaurant, I could lose weight. When I get more time, I'm going to do that. It was always circumstances outside of ourselves, quite honestly, that we were blaming, when in fact everything is an inside job. we've all stated some variation on this theme. If this, then that, the cause and effect. But now we know we don't live by the cause and effect model. That's flawed. That's the flawed Newtonian model that we've dismantled, or Dr. Joe debunked in this book and we're studying. What if you could, this is on page 34, what if you could change your mind, your thoughts, your feelings, and your way of being outside the bounds of time and space? What if you could change ahead of time and see the effects of those internal changes in your external world? Well, you can. You can. And that's what us humans do when we know how to do it. So what has profoundly impacted my life and the lives of so many others is understanding that changing one's mind and thereby having new experiences and gaining new insights is simply a matter of breaking the habit of being yourself. When you overcome your senses, when you understand that you are not bound by the chains of your past, you are not bound by the chains of your past or a genetic predisposition or a family code, or that's just the way it's always been done. When you live a life that is greater than your body, your environment, and your time, the big three, all things are possible. The universal intelligence that animates the existence of all things will both surprise and delight you. It wants nothing more than to provide you with access to all you want. In short, when you change your mind, you change your life. Can you change your state of being? Absolutely. That's what this is about. And once you inhabit a new mind, can you observe a new destiny? The answers are what the rest of this book is all about. In short, when you change your mind, you change your life. See, we aren't taught that we create intended realities using our minds and interacting with the quantum field. We are taught more to do rather than to be. And what does that mean? Well, I could spend, let's say I want a new job, and so I could spend all the time in the world researching that job, researching the qualification it takes for that job, doing all of the kind of head work, getting all of the knowledge, or I could spend all of my time, or most of my time, in the being state. Not so much concerned with all of those details, but envisioning the kind of job I want. Again, in the previous episode, I envisioned in my mind the quantum field, the little duckies on a little canal of water, and you get to pick which little ducky you want to give you the exact result or intended result that you want at any particular time in your life. And so for me, most recently, it was a healing from cancer. But it can be anything. It could be something small, like a particular result in a particular day of getting something on sale, or it could be large, like cancer. And it matters not what the substance is. What matters is the process of it. And so we can lose ourselves and leave the big three, right? Leave our environment, leave our body, leave time, and go out into the quantum field, into pure consciousness, and create from that state of envisioning and intending, and then adding emotions to it and feeling our way through. And quite honestly, we'll feel silly at first. Children do this naturally. But as we grow up, we somehow lose that childlike faith, right? The imagination, imagining what it would be like, envisioning, creating. That's where the magic is. And that's where this happens in the quantum plane. Stay tuned. Dr. Joe continues us through the book and ultimately leads us to very specifically how you and I can do this. I've done it. I encourage you to dig into the book and to embrace these principles. I know they may be very new for some, and some may be very practiced in it. Wherever you are in your continuum, stay with it. That's where the magic happens in life, in gratitude, in magic, and in joy. Thanks for tuning in.